Yugioh is spiraling out of control.
YugiNoNo!
Yugioh! Alright, you guys, I meant to announce the mat giveaway winner on Friday, but I got really busy with stuff, and then, of course, yesterday was the Tulsa Regional, which is going to be the subject of this video. I'm going to be talking about my matchups, talking about what I played, and, of course, I'm going to be talking about the metagame itself, which is just infested with spirals. Spirals are just everywhere. But, really quick, I need to announce the winner, of course, of this amazing MetaMats cloth playmat, the Way of the Warrior playmat, the most beautiful mat ever. My sponsor, MetaMats, they make the best mats on the planet, so be sure to go check them out, metamats.com. But the winner of this amazing mat is Justice Davidson, so be sure to message me on Facebook with your address so I can get you your mat. And I apologize to everyone for not announcing the winner sooner. That is completely my fault. Now, starting the discussion of this video, yesterday's Tulsa Regional was the smallest Tulsa Regional that I have ever been to. There were less than 200 people, and there were only 7 rounds. Now, to put that into perspective, usually Tulsa Regionals, because Tulsa's in the middle of, Texas, Kansas, Missouri, Arkansas, Colorado, and there's people that come from all around, for Tulsa Regionals, and they're usually, 300 plus people regionals, with 9 rounds and everything. So with that in mind, you can see that Tulsa Regionals with less than 200 people is really small. Like, that is just insane compared to what it normally is. And that is the first point that I'm going to elaborate on. We have gone from one tier 0 format to another. We went from Zodiac, which should have gotten emergency banned, it should have been hit. Konami should have done something with that deck so long ago, like not too long after it came out, but we had to deal with Zodiac for months and months and months and months, and then all the way up until Nats, we had to deal with Zodiac. Everyone was playing Zoo, everyone was sick of Zoo, and who wouldn't be sick of Zoo? Zoo was everywhere, you had to play it. If you wanted to win, you had to play Zoo, and players do not like that. That is what is called a tier 0 format. That is literally the definition of a tier 0 format, as having to play a deck in order to win. Just one deck, not 2 decks, not 3 decks. I mean, you have one deck you have to play, and that sucks. That players do not like that, and I think that is a huge reason why this last regionals wasn't very populated. There weren't hardly any players there, in comparison to past regionals. Like, even like the smallest one that I can remember was still like 250 people. This was just minuscule compared to like every other Tulsa regional that I have ever been to. It was insane. And the main reason behind that is because of spirals. Very similar to Zoo, people didn't want to play in a tier 0, Zoo format. Now we're in a tier 0 spiral format. So a lot of, rogue players that I'm used to seeing, a lot of, even fans of mine and stuff that I'm used to seeing at Tulsa Regionals, they just weren't there. And I think that they weren't there because they just didn't want to play against Spiral all day. I mean, can you really blame them? Who wants to play against the same deck all day long? And I'm not saying Spiral needs to be emergency banned right now. That is not what I'm saying at all. I know a lot of people are calling for it. I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is these tier 0 formats should not happen in the first place. Rogue players, and really just players in general, want to play, the deck that they want to play, and they want to feel like they at least have a chance to win playing, their deck choice. If players feel like they don't even stand a chance whatsoever to go to an event and at least, win a match or 2, I mean, if they don't feel like they can even do that, they're not even going to show up to a regional. I mean, why would you waste the money? Why would you waste the time? I mean, a lot of people drive from out of state and stuff to go to regionals, to go to events, and if they think they're not even going to win a game, why even make the trip? Why even spend the money and go through all of that trouble? And that is the main reason why I feel like the Tulsa Regional attendance was way down. Another reason could possibly be that YCS Dallas was last weekend, and maybe people don't want to travel 2 weekends in a row. That is another possibility, but I really feel like that it has a lot to do with spirals. People don't want to play against spirals all day long. And sadly, guys, based on that last point, I feel like going from one tier 0 Zoo format to a tier 0 spiral format has caused a lot of players to quit. I mean, I can't confirm this, but if regional numbers continue to go down, if players aren't, going to events and stuff and actually playing the game, if they're not even going to locals and playing the game and stuff, if we start seeing that trend where players aren't playing at all, and it just so happens to be around the time that there's just this amazing deck like Spiral, and this just keeps happening, I mean, the correlation is there, guys. I mean, tier 0 formats, guys, players don't like them. Stop letting them happen. Konami needs to stop letting these things happen. And really, it comes down to what I said a minute ago. I hate to repeat myself, but players want to play the deck that they want to play, and they want to play it well, and they want to feel like that they can do well. They don't want to feel like they're just going to show up to a place to lose. They don't want that to happen. But that's enough ranting about the actual attendance of the event and all of that stuff, let's talk about what I played and let's talk about the meta in general. So what I decided to play was Spyraling. And the reason why I decided to play Spyraling is because I felt like if I built the deck right, I could have enough stopping power, you know, like hand trap stopping power to actually, you know, combat spirals. I felt like out of all of the decks that I have right now, Spyraling just gave me the best spiral matchup, and I sided cards like Mistake, which I regret not main decking. I felt like if I would have mained Mistake, I would have done better than X3. I mean, because Mistake hurts Pendulum, it hurts Spirals, it hurts Trickstars. It's just a really, really good card. It hurts Dino. Like, Mistake is a fantastic floodgate right now, and I felt like if I would have mained it instead of siding it, I would have done a lot better, and that's just the bottom line. And another note that I want to make, guys, is that hand traps are very, very important, because, I mean, YCS London's going on in the other room right now, and just hand traps like Ghost Reaper, I mean, Gamma, like just all these amazing hand traps, I mean, Droll and Lockbird, all of these hand traps are very good against everything in the meta right now, and I feel like it's the only thing that you could do going second. I mean, going first in Yu-Gi-Oh! Is broken, it has been broken, and the best way to combat going second in Yu-Gi-Oh! Is with hand traps, because if you can disrupt your opponent enough, and then, you know, still be able to play on your next turn, to where they can't build their board, but you can still kind of build a board, you know, decent enough to be able to, like, slam into them and beat them, I feel like it gives you a huge advantage going second, but only if you draw enough hand traps. You have to actually be able to draw them and stop your opponent, because if you can stop an opponent who's going first and they're playing Spiral, you have a very, very good chance of winning. The best hand traps right now, of course, are Droll and Lock. I mentioned Ghost Reaper. Ghost Reaper's really, really good right now. Ghost Ogre is still pretty good. I mean, Ash Blossom is an amazing card. All four of those are just fantastic. If you want to have any sort of chance of playing against Spiral, guys, you need to pick up those cards. They are just really, really good. Oh, and Sideframe Gamma. I forgot about Sideframe Gamma. Gamma is also a very, very good card. I mean, most people side deck it, but I've seen it in the main. It's actually really good. And Gamma is actually phenomenal against Double Helix and all that stuff, which is, I mean, part of the reason why I played Sideframes is because, you know, along with, you know, you main deck Gamma, and then if you play Gamma along with, you know, all the hand traps that everyone else is playing, I mean, you have a really good counter, like going first or second. I mean, going first, you have, like, you know, the Sideframe Field spell, so you can, like, Synchro Summon, make Omega on their turn, like, you can Gamma them and make Omega on their turn and, like, you know, take a card from them. So, like, the theory was sound. I mean, all I really did was take what everyone else is doing, you know, playing hand traps, and just play hand trap the deck. That is literally all I really did. But hand traps are very, very important, guys. I mean, if you're more of a budget player, you're kind of screwed. I mean, I'm sorry to say it, but, like, a lot of these hand traps are very, very expensive. I mean, even Gamma has gone up to, like, something like $20 right now, so you have to pick up 3 of them and a driver, so that's, like, over $60 right there, just, you know, to have, like, a little side deck engine. That's insane. That's $60 right there just for side deck cards. But sadly, it feels like if you want to do well, if you want to actually be able to play Yu-Gi-Oh! Outside of going first, it feels like you have to main deck all of these hand traps. Like, even if you're playing Trickstars and just burning your opponent, you want to play Ash Blossoms, you want to play something to be able to stop your opponent. I mean, I really can't say it enough. Hand traps are the format right now. You have to play hand traps in the Spiral Mirror, you have to play it if you're playing Invoked, you know, against Spiral. I mean, just everything. You have to play hand traps. I feel like a broken record. I feel like I'm kind of talking in circles right now, but it's so true. You have to play them. And that also brings me back to my original point. A lot of Rogue players, they usually go to the Tulsa Regional or just like any regional. If you guys notice, you know, a lack of Rogue players that you usually see at any given event, a lot of the reason that they're not there might not be just because of the Tier 0 format. Maybe they feel like they have to play cards that are super expensive. And let's be honest, a lot of Rogue players, you know, including kids, a lot of them are kids, just don't have the money, you know, like $80 or $70, you know, a pop for like Ash Blossoms, for example. I mean, they just don't have that kind of money, and if they feel like they have to have those cards to be able to even remotely do, you know, to even win a match or anything, they're not going to show up, guys. They're just not going to show up. And I mean, this goes way back to my point earlier, and they're really not going to show up for a Tier 0 format, guys. I feel like Yu-Gi-Oh! Is just, it's getting out of control. I feel like, I mean, if this, you know, one Tier 0 format after another trend continues, I can see a lot of players quitting Yu-Gi-Oh! I can really see it. I mean, I really feel right now the Yu-Gi-Oh! Is kind of spiraling, you know, it's spiraling out of control. It really is, like, pun intended, literally pun intended. Yu-Gi-Oh! Is spiraling out of control right now. People don't want to play against Spiral. People don't want to, you know, play Spiral, you know, just be like, people don't want to be forced to play Spiral if they don't want to play it, you know. If people feel like, oh, I can only do well if I play Invoked or Spiral, but I don't really like either of those decks, I mean, it puts you in a pickle now, doesn't it? It's like, okay, you have to play one of these 2 decks, or, you know, Trickstar too, so like one of these 3 decks to do even remotely well at any given Yu-Gi-Oh event right now. But let's just say you don't like any of those decks. Why? You're not going to play them. And that's a very valid thing. Like back in the day, you know, Dark Worlds, I really liked the way Dark Worlds looked, but I didn't want to play the deck. It was so degenerate. Like it fixed your opponent's hand and like looked at your opponent's hand. It was so bad. Even though I loved the way Dark Worlds looked, I would have never played the deck back in the day. Like I never played it. Like I mean, I learned it, but I didn't actually want to play it. Even though I really liked the way the deck looked, it was so degenerate. And that's, you know, that's a valid argument. A lot of players just don't want to play decks that they don't like. So all this brings me to like my last point that I think I'm going to talk about in this video. Now that I'm, you know, kind of ranted a little bit, can rogue players or can, you know, just casual players in general do anything against the current meta? And I feel like a lot of that question comes down to whether or not they can consistently win die rolls. If you can consistently win die rolls and go first, then sure, you can play Mistake, you can play any floodgate you want, because floodgates are way cheaper than hand traps right now. But the thing is, you have to consistently go first for those floodgates to work, you know what I mean? You have to set the trap and then on their turn activate the trap and then floodgate them. That's how floodgates work. So you have to be able to consistently win die rolls, and because of that, it makes it to where it's more of like a 50-50 shot as to whether or not you're going to do well. Probably less than a 50-50 shot, because let's be real, Spirals are very, very powerful. They are way more bricky than Zoos were as a tier 0 deck, but they are also way more powerful in the end boards that they can create. I mean, a full Spiral board, a rogue deck that's playing a lot of traps is not going to be able to out that. I mean, even if they're playing traps and hand traps, that's just a huge card pool that they have to play before they even have their engine cards in the deck to be able to, you know, have a turn on their turn. So if you think about it, guys, like, really, I'm going to be completely honest right now, and this really, really sucks. I don't think that rogue players have all that much of a chance right now. I feel like that can be resolved if Konami, you know, if they stopped this tier 0 or, you know, just, you know, like high tier 1 format trend. If they stop that trend, then rogue players, casual players would have more of a chance of winning again. But until that happens, and unless you can win die rolls every single time, I'm not condoning loaded dice, but you might want to try it. Unless you can do that, I don't think that rogue players really have that much of a chance. You guys may disagree with that statement. That is just fine. And once again, I'm not condoning and I'm not yelling for, you know, Spirals to be hit already. I'm not yelling for that at all. I'm not calling for that at all, because people have spent money on the deck. I think that they should be able to play the deck that they spent money on. I mean, imagine spending, you know, $1,000 plus on Necros back in the day to have it get immediately emergency banned. That would be terrible, okay? That would be just bad. You know, I feel like, you know, even though decks are tier 0, even though decks can be broken and everything, I feel like they should still have, you know, a length of time to play them, because people, you know, people really do like playing those decks, and they spent a lot of money on them, and they, you know, they may really like the deck, they may really want to win. Either way, they spent good money on the deck, and they should have, you know, a length of time to be able to play that deck. Because I mean, if you guys disagree with that, then I mean, what would happen if you guys spent money on a deck that you liked and then it immediately got hit? You would be pissed. You would be mad. So I mean, you put yourself in their shoes, guys. Put yourselves in their shoes and realize that they spent money on the deck just like you spent money on your deck, and they want to play it for as long as possible. So to answer the question in the title of the video, even though I pretty much already answered it, is Yu-Gi-Oh! Spiraling out of control? I think the answer is, for the most part, yes. And that is not just because of how powerful Spiral is as a deck or how much that we need hand traps. It's not because of those 2 reasons alone. It's also because of how broken Link monsters are already. Firewall Dragon and Borreload are both insanely powerful Link monsters, and we didn't see this with Pendulums. Pendulums, you know, for example, took a long time to get good. It took like over a year, really, for them to get that good. I don't really count Klee. Like, Klee was a really good deck, but it didn't have, it wasn't like, you know, a Pin 5 style deck. It was more of like an anti-meta deck because it played, you know, 3 Vanity's Emptiness, you know, 3 Skill Drain and all that stuff. We didn't really get Pendulums at their more full potential until like way later, over a year later, when Magicians came out. So if you compare how fast the Link mechanic is moving compared to the Pendulum mechanic, and you compare like all the broken cards we're getting, like really quickly compared to the broken Pendulum cards we got, like it is just insane how fast the game is moving, and I really feel like that contributes a lot. It contributes a lot to the game spiraling out of control, because there's a lot of players, including myself, that, you know, they want to play Yu-Gi-Oh, but they don't really want to spend hours studying every little aspect, every little play of the game. If you're a pro player and that's what you want to do and you want to be good at Yu-Gi-Oh, that's awesome. Good for you. I mean, you have a lot of time and you have a lot of dedication to be able to learn every single effect, you know, and be able to counter everything perfectly. That's awesome. But for the most part, Yu-Gi-Oh Yu-Gi-Oh players don't want to sit there and, you know, think about their moves for forever, you know, to make the right moves. They just want to play and have fun, you know? I mean, Yu-Gi-Oh is a competitive game, but it is also a fun game. So with all that being said, guys, in my opinion, you know, Tier 0 format, which is Spiral, combined with, you know, the crazy hand trap stoppage back and forth, along with every little broken effect, and I mean broken. Yu-Gi-Oh is more broken now than it has ever been, really. I mean, unless you think back, you know, to Pepe format or something, but for the most part, it's more broken than it's ever been. So having to remember every single last broken, crazy effect, just, you know, all these things put together, it makes me feel like Yu-Gi-Oh is just spiraling out of control right now. But once again, that is just my opinion. Once again, though, guys, I would love to hear your opinions down in the comment section. If you disagree and all that stuff, that is just fine. Either way, guys, that is going to do it for this video. I hope that you enjoyed it. Until next time, be sure to dick slap that like button and subscribe. Subscribe!